The sun was setting over Los Angeles, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city buzzed with its usual energy, cars honking, people chatting on sidewalks, and the faint hum of distant music drifting through open windows. In a small cafe tucked between two tall buildings, Alex Johnson sat at a corner table scrolling absent-mindedly through his phone. He wasn't really paying attention to anything specific. He just wanted something to do while waiting for Emma Carter. Emma was an old friend from high school, someone Alex hadn't seen in years. They had reconnected recently after bumping into each other online. Back then, they were inseparable, always, hanging out after class or spending weekends exploring the city. But life had pulled them in different directions. College, jobs, relationships, all those things that happen when you grow up, had kept them apart. Now, after so many years, they were finally catching up face to face. When Emma walked into the Ewer cafe, Alex recognized her immediately, even though she looked different. Her hair was shorter now, and she carried herself with a confidence he didn't remember from their teenage years. She spotted him too and waved before making her way over. "Alex," she said warmly as she slid into the seat across from him. "It's been forever." "It really has," Alex replied, smiling. "You look great." "So do you," Emma said, though it came out more like a reflex than genuine praise. She glanced around the cozy space, taking in the warm lighting and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. "This place is nice. How did you find it?" "I work nearby," Alex explained. "I come here sometimes when I need a break. Thought it'd be a good spot for us to catch up." They ordered drinks, a latte for Emma and a black coffee for Alex, and started talking about everything under the sun. Jobs, hobbies, mutual friends. It was all surface-level stuff at first. But as time went on, the conversation began to deepen. That's when Emma leaned forward slightly, her expression shifting from casual to serious. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," she said quietly. Her tone caught Alex off guard. Whatever it was, it clearly mattered to her. "What is it?" Alex asked, putting down his cup. Emma hesitated for a moment, as if unsure how to phrase what she was about to say. Then she took a deep breath and blurted it out. "Did you hear what Xavier Musk just said about God?" Alex blinked. "Xavier Musk? You mean one of Elon's kids?" Emma nodded eagerly. "Yeah, him. He gave this speech last week at some tech conference. It's everywhere online right now." Alex frowned. "No, I haven't seen it. What did he say?" Instead of answering directly, Emma pulled out her phone and tapped on a few icons until she found the video clip she was looking for. She handed the device to Alex, who pressed play. The screen showed a young man standing on a stage, dressed casually in jeans and a hoodie. His demeanor was calm but intense, and his words carried a weight that seemed unusual for someone his age. "God is not who we think he is," Xavier said, pausing briefly to let the audience absorb the statement. "And if humanity doesn't understand this soon, our future might slip away." The room fell silent for a second before erupting into murmurs. Reporters seated in the front row scrambled to jot down notes, while others raised their hands, desperate to ask follow-up questions. But Xavier simply smiled, turned, and walked off the stage without another word. Alex stared at the screen, replaying the clip in his mind. Something about it felt unsettling. Not because it was controversial, necessarily, but because it hinted at something bigger, something unspoken. "What does that even mean?" Alex asked finally, handing the phone back to Emma. "I don't know," Emma admitted, "but it got me thinking. Like, what if he knows something we don't? What if there's more to it than just philosophy or religion?" Alex shrugged, trying to act nonchalant. But inside, his curiosity was piqued. "Maybe he's just trying to sound mysterious. You know how these tech geniuses love being cryptic." "Or maybe," Emma countered, leaning closer, "he's onto something real, something big." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The idea hung in the air between them, heavy and unresolved. Was Xavier Musk simply making headlines, or was there truth behind his cryptic message? Neither Alex nor Emma could have guessed where this conversation would lead, or how much their lives were about to change. As they left the cafe later that evening, walking side by side along the busy streets of Los Angeles, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was lurking just beneath the surface of everyday life. Little did he know the next few days would prove him right in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. The morning after their meeting, Alex woke up feeling restless. He couldn't stop thinking about what Emma had shown him, the video of Xavier Musk's speech. Those few sentences kept replaying in his head. God is not who we think he is. What did it mean? Who or what was Xavier referring to? And why had Emma reacted so strongly to it? He decided to do a little research. Sitting at his kitchen table with his laptop open, Alex typed Xavier Musk God speech into the search. Perker. Thousands of results popped up instantly. Articles, videos, podcasts, and social media posts dissecting every possible angle of the mysterious statement. Some praised Xavier as a visionary, while others dismissed him as a publicity seeker. There were conspiracy theories linking his words to secret government projects, alien contact, and even the end of the world. One article stood out to Alex, written by a journalist named Lisa Bennett. It explored the possibility that Xavier's comments weren't random. According to the piece, Xavier had been hinting at deeper truths for months, dropping subtle clues during interviews and public appearances. Lisa speculated that he might be preparing the world for some kind of revelation, one that could alter humanity's understanding of itself forever. Alex scrolled further, his interest growing with each new discovery. One Reddit thread caught his eye. Users were discussing whether Xavier's family connections, his father being Elon Musk, gave him access to information most people could only dream of. Another commenter suggested that Xavier's statements were part of a larger plan to introduce humanity to extraterrestrial life. At first, Alex thought the idea sounded ridiculous. Aliens? Really? But the more he read, the harder it became to dismiss entirely. After all, Elon Musk had dedicated his career to advancing space exploration. Could it be possible that his son knew something the rest of the world didn't? By the time Alex closed his laptop, his mind was racing. He texted Emma to share what he'd learned, but she didn't respond right away. Instead, she called him. Later that afternoon, her voice tinged with excitement. "You won't believe this," she said without preamble. "I got an email." "What kind of email?" Alex asked, confused. Emma hesitated as if unsure how to explain. "It's weird. It doesn't have a subject line or anything. Just a message saying I've been chosen to learn the truth. And there are coordinates attached." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "Coordinates? For what?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "But here's the thing. They sent the same email to you too." "How do you know that?" Alex asked, his heart pounding. "Because I checked your inbox," Emma replied sheepishly. "I figured it was important, so I used your old password. Sorry." Alex sighed but didn't argue. If Emma was right, this wasn't the time to worry about privacy breaches. "What do the coordinates point to?" "They're somewhere in the Mojave Desert," Emma said. "It's supposed to happen tonight." "This sounds insane," Alex muttered, running a hand through his hair. "Are you sure it's safe?" "No," Emma admitted. "But aren't you curious? Don't you want to know what this is all about?" Alex didn't answer right away. Part of him wanted to ignore the whole thing, to chalk it up to a prank or some elaborate marketing stunt. But another part, the part that had spent hours reading theories and speculations online, was dying to find out more. "Fine," he said finally. "Let's go. But if this turns out to be some creepy cult thing, I'm blaming you." Emma laughed nervously. "Deal." That night, Alex and Emma drove together toward the desert, the GPS guiding them to the exact location marked by the coordinates. The journey was long and quiet, punctuated only by the occasional comment about the eerie beauty of the landscape around them. As they approached their destination, the road grew narrower, eventually disappearing altogether. They parked the car and continued on foot, guided by the light of the moon. When they reached the spot, they found nothing but empty sand stretching endlessly in all directions. For a moment, Alex wondered if they'd made a mistake. Maybe the email had been fake after all. Then, without warning, a low humming noise filled the air. A sleek black drone descended from above, hovering silently a few feet away. Before either of them could react, a holographic projection flickered to life, revealing Xavier Musk himself. "I'm glad you came," Xavier said, his voice calm but commanding. "What I'm about to share with you will change everything you know about existence." Before Alex or Emma could respond, the drone emitted a soft glow, and suddenly they felt themselves being lifted off the ground. Within seconds, they were aboard a spacecraft unlike anything they'd ever seen. The moment Alex and Emma stepped, or rather floated, into the spacecraft, they knew their lives would never be the same. The inside of the ship was nothing like anything they had ever imagined. The walls shimmered with a soft, silvery glow, as if they were alive. There were no sharp edges or corners. Everything seemed smooth and rounded, blending seamlessly into one another. Strange symbols moved across the surfaces, glowing faintly in colors that shifted slowly from blue to green to purple. It felt less like being inside a machine and more like standing within something organic, almost sentient. Emma gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "Is this real?" she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. She reached out to touch one of the glowing panels, but before her fingers could make contact, the surface rippled like water and emitted a low hum. Alex grabbed her arm gently. "Careful," he said, though his own tone betrayed how stunned he was. "We don't know what this thing can do." Xavier Musk appeared suddenly at the far end of the chamber, walking toward them with an easy confidence. He looked younger, in person, than he did on screen, his dark hair slightly messy, his clothes simple yet somehow fitting for the surreal environment. His expression was calm, almost serene, but there was an intensity in his eyes that made it clear he wasn't just some carefree tech prodigy playing games. "I'm glad you're here," Xavier said, stopping a few feet away. His voice echoed, softly, as though the ship itself was amplifying his words. "You've been chosen because you're ready to hear the truth." "The truth about what?" Alex asked, trying to keep his voice steady. He crossed his arms over his chest, partly to appear confident and partly to stop himself from fidgeting. This whole situation felt too strange, too overwhelming. Xavier didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gestured for them to follow him, deeper into the ship. They walked through a curved corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly despite its small size. Every step they took felt lighter than the last, as if gravity itself had loosened its grip. Eventually, they arrived at a large circular room filled with floating projections, images of galaxies, planets, and swirling clouds of cosmic dust. In the center of the room hovered a massive hologram of Earth, slowly rotating as streams of data flowed around it like rivers of light. "This," Xavier began, pointing to the hologram, "is humanity's home. But it's also part of something much bigger, something most people aren't ready to understand." Emma tilted her head, studying the display. "What are you talking about? Who sent us those emails? What is this place?" Xavier smiled faintly, as if amused by her eagerness. "Let me start from the beginning. My father, Elon, has always been interested in space exploration. You probably know that already. What you don't know is why he's so obsessed with it. He wants to colonize Mars," Alex interjected, raising an eyebrow. "Everyone knows that." "Yes, but not just for survival," Xavier replied. "He believes, and I agree, that we're not alone in the universe. Not in the way most people think, anyway." Alex frowned. "Aliens? Is that what this is about?" Xavier shook his head. "Not aliens in the traditional sense. These beings aren't biological. They're advanced, beyond anything we can comprehend. They call themselves the architects." "The architects?" Emma repeated, her brow furrowing. "What does that mean?" "They created the universe," Xavier explained simply, as if stating a fact everyone should already know. "Not out of kindness or cruelty, but as an experiment. A test, if you will." Alex stared at him, incredulous. "A test? For what?" "To see if life forms like us, carbon-based organisms trapped in three-dimensional reality, can evolve beyond our limitations, to see if we're capable of understanding higher truths. Emma glanced at Alex, her expression torn between fascination and skepticism. So, these architects, are they gods? Are you saying God is actually some kind of superintelligent alien race? It's complicated, Xavier admitted. They're not gods in the religious sense. They don't care about worship or prayer. To them, we're like ants trying to understand skyscrapers, but they've grown curious about us. Some believe we have potential. Others... He trailed off, his gaze dropping for a moment. Well, let's just say they see us as expendable. The weight of his words settled heavily in the air. Alex swallowed hard, struggling to process what he was hearing. Why are you telling us this? Why now? Because time is running out, Xavier said bluntly. The architects are watching closely. If humanity doesn't evolve spiritually, and technologically if we don't prove ourselves worthy, they may decide to terminate the experiment. Terminate it? Emma echoed, her voice rising. What does that even mean? Are they going to destroy Earth? Xavier hesitated, choosing his next words carefully. It's not destruction in the way you're thinking, more like resetting, starting over. Humanity would cease to exist as we know it, and the architects would move on to another project. Alex clenched his fists, feeling a mix of anger and helplessness. And you expect us to believe all this? Just take your word for it? Before Xavier could respond, the ship shuddered slightly, drawing their attention back to the holographic displays. The image of Earth flickered, replaced by a series of complex diagrams showing energy patterns and mathematical equations. One of the projections zoomed in on a specific region of the planet, a remote area in the Pacific Ocean. What's that? Emma asked, pointing at the glowing red dot pulsing on the map. That's where they've been communicating with us, Xavier said quietly, through signals embedded in the Earth's magnetic field. We've intercepted fragments of their messages, but decoding them has been difficult. That's where you two come in. Us? Alex blurted out, shaking his head. What makes... You think we're qualified for any of this? You've both shown qualities the architects find intriguing, Xavier explained. Curiosity, resilience, adaptability. And you've demonstrated the ability to question authority, to seek answers beyond what's presented to you. Emma folded her arms, still skeptical. Even if we believe you, which by the way is a big if, what exactly are you asking us to do? Xavier turned to face them fully, his expression grave. I need your help to deliver a message to the world. Proof of the architect's existence along with technology that could change everything. Energy sources that won't harm the planet. Cures for diseases. Solutions to problems humanity has been struggling with for centuries. And, in return? Alex pressed, narrowing his eyes. What's the catch? There isn't one, Xavier said firmly. But the technology will only work if humanity embraces unity over division. Cooperation over greed. If people continue fighting among themselves, the architects may decide the experiment isn't worth continuing. Silence fell over the group. As the enormity of the task sank in, Alex glanced at Emma, who looked equally overwhelmed. Could they really trust Xavier? Was any of this even real? As if sensing their doubts, Xavier stepped closer. I know this is a lot to take in, but ask yourselves, do you want to stand by and watch the world crumble, or do you want to fight for a chance to save it? Neither Alex nor Emma answered, right away. The question hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. Whatever choice they made next, it would define not only their futures, but possibly the fate of humanity itself. After several long minutes, Alex finally spoke. If we agree to help, what happens next? Xavier nodded approvingly. First, we gather evidence, data that proves the architects exist. Then we prepare to share it with the world, but we'll need to act quickly. Once word gets out, there will be consequences. What kind of consequences? Emma asked cautiously. Some people won't want to believe it, Xavier warned. Others will try to exploit the information for power or profit. And then there are those who might view it as a threat to religion, to science, to everything they hold dear. Alex sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. This sounds impossible. How are we supposed to convince anyone of something so unbelievable? One step at a time, Xavier replied. We start small, build trust, show people the benefits without overwhelming them, and above all, stay focused on the goal. Emma bit her lip, clearly torn. What if we fail? What if humanity isn't ready for this? Then we'll have done everything we could, Xavier said simply. Sometimes that's all you can hope for. For a while longer, they discussed logistics, how to gather the evidence, who to approach first, and how to protect themselves from potential backlash. By the time they finished, exhaustion had set in, but neither Alex nor Emma felt ready to rest. Their minds were racing with possibilities, fears, and questions that didn't have easy answers. As they prepared to leave the ship, Xavier stopped them one last time. Remember, he said, his voice low but urgent, this isn't just about saving Earth. It's about proving to the architects and to ourselves that we're worth saving. With that, the trio exited the spacecraft, stepping back into the quiet desert night. The stars above them twinkled brightly, oblivious to the monumental decision weighing on Alex and Emma's shoulders. Whatever happened next, they knew one thing for certain: their ordinary lives were officially over. The next morning, Alex and Emma woke up in a small rented cabin deep in the Mojave Desert. It wasn't luxurious, just a single room with 2 twin beds, a kitchenette, and a tiny bathroom, but it was private. The isolation suited them perfectly for what they were about to do. After their encounter with Xavier Musk and the strange spacecraft, neither of them felt comfortable returning to Los Angeles. They needed time to think, to process everything they had learned, and to figure out their next steps. Alex sat at the rickety wooden table near the window, staring out at the barren landscape. The sun was already high in the sky, casting long shadows across the cracked earth. He held a cup of coffee in his hands, though he hadn't taken a single sip. His mind was racing, replaying every detail of the previous night over and over again. Emma joined him a few minutes later, dressed in jeans and a hoodie. She looked tired, her hair pulled back into a messy ponytail, but there was a determined glint in her eyes. Did you sleep at all? She asked, pouring herself a cup of coffee from the pot on the counter. Not really, Alex admitted, setting his untouched mug down. Too much going on in my head. Same here. Emma sighed, sitting across from him. I keep thinking about what Xavier said, about the architects, about everything. Alex nodded slowly. Do you believe him? I mean, do you really think this is real? Emma hesitated before answering. I don't know. Part of me wants to say no, that it's all too crazy to be true. But another part of me can't ignore the evidence. That ship didn't feel fake. Alex, it felt alive. And Xavier seemed so sure of himself. He's Elon Musk's son, Alex pointed out. Of course he seems sure of himself. People like him are used to being right. Maybe, Emma conceded. But even if he's wrong, we still have to consider the possibility that there's something bigger going on here, something we don't understand yet. Alex leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. Okay, let's say we believe him. What then? How do we prove any of this to anyone else? Most people won't take our word for it. That's why we need proof, Emma said firmly. Xavier mentioned gathering evidence, data, technology, whatever we can use to show people the truth. But how do we get that? Alex asked. We're just ordinary people, Emma. We don't have access to secret labs or advanced tech. Emma smiled faintly. That's where Xavier comes in. He promised to help us. Remember? He said we'd start by collecting data. Alex frowned. And you trust him? Just like that? I don't know if I trust him completely, Emma admitted, but I trust that he believes what he's saying. And right now, that's enough for me. They spent the rest of the day planning their approach. Xavier had given them a list of tasks to complete, starting with tracking down specific locations around the world where the architect's signals had been detected. These places, hidden in remote areas of the ocean, deserts, and mountains, were believed to hold fragments of alien technology left behind as part of the experiment. If they could retrieve these artifacts, they might be able to decode the messages embedded within them. The first location on the list was an island off the coast of Chile. According to Xavier, it was uninhabited and largely unexplored, making it the perfect spot for the architects to leave one of their devices. Getting there wouldn't be easy. They'd need to charter a boat and navigate treacherous waters. But neither Alex nor Emma hesitated. They were committed now, driven by a mix of curiosity, fear, and determination. 2 days later, they found themselves aboard a small fishing vessel, heading toward the island under the cover of darkness. The captain, a grizzled man named Carlos, didn't ask many questions. He simply accepted the cash they offered and agreed to drop them off at the coordinates they provided. As the boat rocked gently in the waves, Alex and Emma stood on the deck, peering into the distance. "It's weird, isn't it?" Emma said softly, breaking the silence. "We're literally chasing aliens." "Not aliens," Alex corrected her. "Architects, whatever that means." "Right. Architects." Emma chuckled nervously. "Still, when I imagined my life turning into a sci-fi movie, I didn't think it would happen like this." Alex smirked. "Me neither. No explosions or laser guns, just us stumbling around in the dark. Well, maybe that'll change once we find whatever we're looking for," Emma teased, though her tone betrayed a hint of unease. When they finally reached the island, the sun was beginning to rise, painting the horizon in shades of pink and gold. The landmass was small and rugged, covered in dense vegetation and rocky cliffs. There were no signs of human activity. No buildings, no roads, nothing but nature untouched by civilization. Carlos dropped them off on a narrow strip of beach, warning them to be careful. "You've got 6 hours," he said gruffly. "After that, I'm leaving with or without you." "We'll be back," Alex assured him, though he wasn't entirely confident in his own words. As soon as the boat disappeared over the horizon, Alex and Emma set to work. Xavier had provided them with a handheld device designed to detect anomalies in the environment. Energy signatures, magnetic disturbances, anything unusual. They split up, each taking a different section of the island to cover more ground. It didn't take long for Emma to find something. She was climbing over a cluster of boulders when the device in her hand began to beep loudly. Heart pounding, she called out to Alex, who came running moments later. "What is it?" he asked, scanning the area. Emma pointed to a smooth, metallic object partially buried in the sand. It was roughly the size of a basketball, its surface etched with intricate patterns that glowed faintly in the sunlight. Neither of them had ever seen anything like it. "This has to be it," Emma whispered, crouching down to examine the artifact more closely. "It matches the description Xavier gave us." Alex knelt beside her, his eyes wide with awe. "How? Does it work? Can we pick it up?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "Xavier said the technology is fragile. We should be careful." Using a piece of cloth from her backpack, Emma carefully lifted the object free from the sand. It was surprisingly light, almost weightless, and warm to the touch. As she held it, the patterns on its surface began to shift, glowing brighter and forming new shapes. "Whoa," Alex breathed, leaning closer. "Is it reacting to you?" "I think so," Emma murmured. "Maybe it recognizes us somehow." Before they could investigate further, a low rumbling sound filled the air. The ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, causing both of them to stumble. The artifact pulsed with a sudden burst of light, blinding them momentarily. "What's happening?" Alex shouted, shielding his eyes. "I don't know," Emma replied, clutching the object tightly. "But I think we need to get out of here." They scrambled to their feet and made their way back to the beach as quickly as possible. By the time they reached the shore, the rumbling had stopped, but the atmosphere felt different, charged, almost electric. The waves crashed against the rocks with unnatural force, and the wind whipped through the trees carrying an eerie whistle. Carlos was waiting for them when they arrived, his expression tense. "What did you do?" he demanded, helping them onto the boat. "We didn't do anything," Alex protested, holding up his hands defensively. Something happened on the island, but we don't know what. Carlos muttered something under his breath but didn't press the issue. He started the engine and steered the boat away from the island as fast as possible. Neither Alex nor Emma spoke during the journey back, their minds racing with questions and fears. Once they were safely back on the mainland, they contacted Xavier via a secure line he had provided. He listened intently as they described their discovery and the strange events that followed. "You did well," he said when they finished. "The artifact is a key, a piece of the puzzle. Bring it to me and we'll begin decoding the message." "And then what?" Emma asked. "What happens after we decode it?" Xavier paused, his voice softening. "Then, we decide how to share it with the world, and hope humanity is ready." Alex glanced at Emma, seeing the same mix of excitement and dread reflected in her eyes. Whatever lay ahead, they knew it wouldn't be easy. But they also knew they couldn't turn back now. When Alex and Emma arrived at the secret location Xavier had arranged for them, a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of Las Vegas, they were greeted by a team of scientists and engineers who looked like they'd stepped straight out of a sci-fi movie. The group worked quietly, their faces illuminated by the glow of computer screens and holographic displays. It was clear that this wasn't just some random meeting spot. It was a fully equipped lab designed to analyze the artifact they'd retrieved from the island. Xavier stood near the center of the room, his expression calm but focused. As soon as Alex and Emma entered, he motioned for them to join him. "You made good time," he said, nodding approvingly. "Now let's see what we're dealing with." Emma carefully placed the artifact on a metal table in the middle of the lab. Everyone gathered around, watching intently as one of the scientists, an older man with glasses and a clipboard, began running tests. The glowing patterns on the object shifted again, responding to the equipment surrounding it. Beams of light scanned its surface while sensors picked up faint energy readings that none of the instruments could fully explain. "This is incredible," the scientist murmured, adjusting his glasses. "The material doesn't match anything in our database. It's not metal, not plastic, not anything natural." "What does that mean?" Alex asked, leaning forward slightly. He felt both fascinated and uneasy, like he was witnessing something far beyond human understanding. "It means this thing isn't from Earth," Xavier replied simply. "It's part of the architect's experiment, a fragment of their technology left here to guide us or test us." Emma frowned, her eyes still fixed on the artifact. "Test us how? What's the purpose?" Xavier hesitated before answering. "Think of it like a puzzle. Each piece holds information, but only when assembled correctly can you see the full picture. This device contains a message, one we need to decode if we want to understand the architect's intentions." Over the next several hours, the team worked tirelessly, feeding data into supercomputers and analyzing every detail of the artifact. Slowly but surely, patterns began to emerge. Streams of numbers and symbols filled the screens, forming sequences that seemed almost musical in their rhythm. At first, no one could make sense of it, but then one of the engineers, a young woman named Lisa, noticed something unusual. "These aren't just random codes," she said excitedly. "They're coordinates, locations scattered all over the globe." Xavier nodded, unsurprised. "That makes sense. The architects wouldn't leave everything in one place. We'll need to gather more artifacts to complete the message." Alex groaned, rubbing his temples. "So, we're back to square one? More trips to remote islands and deserts?" "Not exactly," Xavier replied. "This time, we'll have help. I've already reached out to trusted allies who can assist us. But there's another problem." "What now?" Emma asked, bracing herself for bad news. "The data suggests these locations are being monitored," Xavier explained grimly, "by people or organizations who don't want us to succeed." "Monitored?" Alex echoed, his stomach sinking. "You mean someone knows about this? They might not know everything," Xavier admitted, "but they've been tracking anomalies related to the architect's signals. If we're not careful, they'll try to stop us." Emma crossed her arms, her jaw tightening. "Who are they? Government agents, conspiracy theorists?" "I don't know yet," Xavier said, "but whoever they are, they're dangerous, and they'll do whatever it takes to get their hands on this technology." Despite the looming threat, Alex and Emma didn't hesitate. They knew the stakes were too high to back down now. With Xavier's guidance, they divided the list of coordinates among themselves and set off on separate missions. Each location came with its own challenges: harsh weather conditions, treacherous terrain, and increasingly suspicious locals. But they managed to retrieve 3 more artifacts within a week. Each new discovery brought them closer to decoding the architect's message, but it also drew unwanted attention. On their 4th trip, to an abandoned mining site in Australia, Alex and Emma noticed they were being followed. A black SUV trailed them for miles, staying just far enough away to avoid suspicion. When they finally stopped to investigate, 2 men dressed in dark suits approached them, claiming to be government officials. "We need to confiscate those items," one of them said, holding up a badge. "They pose a potential risk to national security." Alex exchanged a glance with Emma, silently debating whether to comply. Before either of them could respond, however, Xavier's voice crackled through the earpiece they'd been given. "Don't trust them," he warned. "They're not who they say they are." Without hesitation, Alex and Emma jumped into action. Using the rugged terrain to their advantage, they fled on foot, dodging rocks and trees as the men gave chase. It was a risky move, but it paid off. They eventually lost their pursuers in the dense forest and escaped with the artifact intact. Back at the lab, tensions ran high. Xavier urged everyone to stay vigilant, reminding them that they were playing a dangerous game. "We're running out of time," he said during one of their briefings. "The architects won't wait forever. If we don't deliver the message soon, humanity may lose its chance." As the days passed, the team grew closer to piecing together the final message. The artifacts formed a complex network of interconnected data, revealing images and sounds that defied logic. One projection showed a map of the universe overlaid with pulsating lines of energy. Another displayed scenes of Earth's history, moments of triumph and tragedy, progress and destruction. And then there was the voice, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the very air, speaking in a language no one could understand. Lisa worked tirelessly to translate the audio, using advanced algorithms to break it down into comprehensible words. Finally, after countless sleepless nights, she succeeded. The message was simple yet profound. Humanity stands at a crossroads. Choose unity or face termination. The room fell silent as the translation appeared on the main screen. Everyone stared at the words, their weight sinking in. This was it, the architect's ultimatum. Humanity had been given a choice and the clock was ticking. Alex broke the silence first. "So what happens now? How do we convince billions of people to work together when half of them can't even agree on basic facts?" "It won't be easy," Xavier admitted, "but we have proof, evidence of the architect's existence, and the technology to back it up. That's our leverage." Emma nodded slowly, her mind racing. "We need to go public. Share the message with the world. Show them what's at stake. And hope they listen," Alex added bitterly. "Because if they don't..." He didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. Failure meant extinction, not just for humans, but for all life on Earth. Xavier clapped his hands together, snapping them out of their somber thoughts. "Then let's get to work. We'll prepare a broadcast, something impossible to ignore. Once the message is out, we'll deal with the fallout." Over the next few days, the team scrambled to put together a plan. They compiled footage of the artifacts, recordings of the decoded message, and detailed explanations of the architect's experiment. Every detail was carefully crafted to ensure clarity without causing mass panic. They debated endlessly about the best way to release the information. Should they leak it online, hold a press conference, send it directly to world leaders? In the end, they decided on a bold approach, a live global broadcast. Using satellite networks and social media platforms, they would transmit the message simultaneously to every corner of the planet. There would be no hiding, no turning back. Humanity would have to face the truth head-on. On the night of the broadcast, Alex and Emma stood side by side in the control room, watching as the countdown timer ticked down. Their hearts pounded in unison, each beat echoing the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Would people believe them? Would they rise to the challenge, or would fear and division tear them apart? As the clock hit 0, the transmission went live. For the first time in history, the entire world heard the same message at the same moment. Reactions varied wildly. Some embraced the revelation with awe and wonder, while others dismissed it as a hoax or conspiracy. Riots broke out in major cities, governments scrambled to respond, and religious leaders called for calm amidst growing chaos. Through it all, Alex and Emma remained steadfast. They had done their part. Now, it was up to humanity to decide its fate. Later that night, as the dust began to settle, Xavier approached them with a look of quiet pride. "You've done well," he said softly. "Whatever happens next, remember that you gave the world a chance." Emma smiled weakly, though her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. "Do you think it'll be enough?" Xavier didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gazed out the window at the stars twinkling above. "Only time will tell," he said finally. "But sometimes, all we can do is hope." The days following the global broadcast felt like living in a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. The world was in chaos, torn between disbelief, fear, and awe. Some people embraced the message from the architects, seeing it as proof of humanity's place in a grand cosmic design. Others rejected it outright, calling it an elaborate hoax or a government conspiracy meant to control the masses. Riots erupted in major cities, fueled by confusion and anger. Protesters clashed with police, demanding answers that no one could fully provide. Alex and Emma watched it all unfold from the safety of Xavier Musk's hidden facility. They spent hours glued to news channels, social media feeds, and live streams, trying to gauge how humanity was responding to the revelation. It was overwhelming, both the scale of the reaction and the weight of knowing they had played a role in sparking it. "I didn't think it would be this bad," Emma admitted one evening, sitting on the edge of her chair in the lab. Her voice was quiet, almost lost in the hum of computers and equipment around them. "I thought, I don't know, that maybe people would come together faster." Alex leaned against the wall, arms crossed over his chest. "People don't change overnight," he said grimly, "especially when you drop something this big on them without warning." Xavier entered the room just then, carrying a tablet with updates from various intelligence sources. His face was calm, but there was a tension in his posture that betrayed his concern. "It's not surprising," he said, setting the device down on a nearby table. "Fear always comes first, then denial. Only after that will people start to process what's really happening." "And what if they never get past the fear?" Emma asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What if they can't see past their own differences long enough to unite?" Xavier sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Then we've failed." "But failure isn't an option. Not anymore." Despite the turmoil outside, work inside the facility continued at a frantic pace. The team pored over the data collected from the artifacts, searching for any additional clues about the architect's intentions. Each new discovery added layers to the mystery, deepening their understanding of the experiment humanity was part of. One breakthrough came when Lisa, the young engineer who had helped decode the initial message, uncovered a fragment of information suggesting that the architects weren't merely observing Earth. They were interacting with it. "They've been here before," Lisa explained during a late-night meeting. She pointed to a series of symbols projected onto the wall, glowing faintly in shades of blue and green. "These patterns match ancient carvings found in ruins all over the world. Places like Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, even the pyramids." "You're saying the architects influenced human history?" Alex asked, incredulous. "Not directly," Xavier clarified. "More like nudges, guiding us along certain paths, planting seeds of knowledge that we'd discover on our own eventually." Emma frowned, leaning forward. "So, they've been helping us evolve? Is that why they created the universe as some kind of test?" "It's possible," Xavier replied. "But remember, they're not doing this out of kindness. To them, we're still ants, If we fail, they won't hesitate to wipe the slate clean and start over. The reminder hung heavy in the air, a constant shadow over everything they did. Time was running out, and they knew it. The architects hadn't given humanity a deadline, but the sense of urgency was palpable. Every day brought fresh reports of violence, political instability, and environmental disasters. The planet seemed to be unraveling before their eyes, and the message of unity wasn't spreading fast enough. One night, as Alex lay awake staring at the ceiling, he heard a soft knock at his door. When he opened it, Emma stood there looking, small and uncertain in the dim hallway light. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. He nodded, stepping aside to let her enter. She sat on the edge of his bed while he pulled up a chair, both of them avoiding eye contact for a moment. "I keep thinking about what Xavier said," Emma began, her voice barely above a whisper. "About how this isn't just about saving Earth, it's about proving to the architects and to ourselves that we're worth saving." Alex nodded slowly. "Yeah. What about it?" "What if we're not?" she asked, turning to look at him. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "What if we've already gone too far, destroyed too much? Maybe the architects are right. Maybe we're expendable." Alex reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We don't know that yet, and even if we have messed up, doesn't mean we can't fix things. Isn't that what this is all about? A second chance?" Emma smiled faintly, though her expression remained haunted. "Do you really believe that? Or are you just saying it to make me feel better?" "To be honest, I'm not sure," Alex admitted. "But I do know one thing. Giving up won't help anyone. If we stop fighting now, then yeah, we're definitely expendable." They sat in silence for a while, the weight of their conversation pressing down on them. Finally, Emma stood up, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Thanks," she said softly, "for listening." "Any time," Alex replied, watching as she slipped back into the hallway. As the weeks passed, the situation outside grew increasingly dire. Governments struggled to maintain order, while corporations and militaries scrambled to exploit the newfound knowledge for profit or power. Conspiracy theories flourished, blaming everyone from tech billionaires to secret societies for orchestrating the alien hoax. Amid the chaos, however, glimmers of hope began to emerge. Grassroots movements sprang up around the world, urging people to set aside their differences and work toward common goals. Scientists collaborated across borders to share research and solutions. Religious leaders preached messages of compassion and forgiveness, reminding their followers that humanity's survival depended on love rather than hate. Slowly but surely, cracks began to form in the walls dividing nations, cultures, and ideologies. Inside the facility, Alex and Emma noticed the shift as well. Reports of cooperation and innovation started trickling in, offering a ray of optimism in an otherwise bleak landscape. Even Xavier seemed encouraged, though he remained cautious. "This is just the beginning," he warned during one of their daily check-ins. "The real test will come when the changes we're seeing now become permanent. Can humanity sustain this level of unity, or will old habits reassert themselves once the initial shock wears off?" No one had an answer, but they clung to the belief that progress was possible, even if it required sacrifices. Eventually, the time came for Alex and Emma to face a choice of their own. Xavier approached them one morning, his expression unusually solemn. "The architects have made contact again," he announced. "They've offered you both a place among them. A chance to leave Earth behind and join the next stage of evolution." Emma blinked, stunned. "Leave Earth, you mean forever?" Xavier nodded. "It's not an easy decision. Staying here means continuing to fight for a future that may never come. Leaving means abandoning everything and everyone you care about." Alex shook his head, stepping back instinctively. "There's no way I'm leaving, not now, not after everything we've done to get this far." Emma hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. She wanted to stay, to believe that humanity could rise to the challenge, but doubt gnawed at her. What if they couldn't? What if staying meant witnessing the end firsthand? In the end, they chose different paths. Alex stayed, determined to keep fighting for Earth's future. Emma accepted the architect's offer, tearfully bidding farewell to her friend and the only home she'd ever known. As the spacecraft ascended into the heavens, carrying Emma away, Alex watched with a mix of sadness and resolve. He didn't blame her for leaving. He understood why she'd made the choice she did. But for him, there was still work to be done. Back on Earth, the seeds of change continued to grow. People worked together in ways they never had before, driven by the realization that their fate depended on each other. Whether humanity would pass the architect's test remained uncertain, but for the first time, there was hope. And somewhere beyond the stars, Emma looked down at the blue-green orb floating in the void, wondering if she'd made the right decision.